This portion of the CU podcast is brought to you by True Classic. Finding the perfect fitting t-shirt can get frustrating. It can be too tight around your gut or just big and boxy. True Classic wants to make it easy to look good and feel good. So their high quality and pocket friendly menswear is made with every man in mind. It's a True Classic way. So guys, no excuses. It's time to upgrade. In fact, over 2 million men already have, and they look really good. We have an exclusive deal for our audience to hook you up with some True Classic. For a limited time, get 25% off with the code CU Podcast at trueclassic.com.
Almost all men's t-shirts are designed to look good on a certain body type. Think skinny models with six packs, but most of us aren't packing anything down but a few beers, and that's okay. Guys, it's simple. You're wearing the wrong clothes. True Classic tees taper off towards the bottom, but they fit tighter around the chest and shoulders. You can wear a True Classic with confidence. They are tailor-made to highlight your best assets. And not only are you finally getting a t-shirt designed for your body, but the first thing you'll notice is how soft it is. These are super soft. I really enjoy how these feel on me. Get ready to clean out your closet. You won't be able to go back to those cheap materials once you try these. True Classic doesn't just stop at tees. They're your one-stop shop for all sorts of men's essentials, from polos and workout shirts to comfortable boxers. All of the gear is top-notch quality and at reasonable prices. They have a great pack builder on their website where you can custom bundle all of their essential products and save even more than the discount we're offering you today. And for any of the big boys out there, they have long body options for the tall guys and have triple XL on all of their staple colors. True Classic will make you feel your best, whether you have abs or flabs. Their clothes look great on all body types. Skinny dudes, big dudes, buff dudes, True Classic has you covered.
It's time to get comfortable and get going. Upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic. Get 25% off at trueclassic.com with code CU Podcast. Free shipping is included on purchases over $100. 100% risk-free guarantee with a 30-day return policy. Stay classy with True Classic. All right. We got voicemails. You go to anchor.fm/the CU Podcast. Leave us a voice message. We will appreciate it. If you leave it to under about 20 seconds, I will love you a lot. It would be very fantastic for that to happen. Here's the first one.
Hey, Pat. Hey, Ian. This is Greg calling in from St. Petersburg, Florida.
Greg?
And I was just wondering if Tommy Tallarico or Phil Adams offered to come on the show if you would take them up on it. Hope you guys have a good one, and thanks for the content.
Like a one-on-one, or just like, hey, just like call in, Tommy, and talk about what a disaster is. First of all, it wouldn't happen because we would be critical. So like, that's why it would never happen.
Yeah, at this point, if it was like, and it never would be is the problem, but if it was in good faith, maybe. But the reason why we never had them on earlier, and we could have, is because we did not want to be used as a vehicle for him to just talk over people and talk about how great and everything was in Miko land.
It's you can't have someone on to promote something that is years away and then say, oh, this is going to be great. And then if we ask critical questions, well, we're too far out for that. Like, that's what would have happened. Yeah. Like, it would have been, well, you guys don't have the information. So we'd have to, like, first of all, trust the person is being truthful when we know the person is a pathological liar. We knew that years ago, but we know that for sure now. Everyone knows that. So there would be a no win for us to interview someone while it was happening. Plus, because we always come from the consumer side anyway. Right. We always look at what is being presented to the consumer. And
it wasn't our responsibility to let Tommy correct things or clear the air. As I said numerous times during the earlier to mid portions of the Amico stuff, if Tommy wants us to stop saying things that are wrong, then Tommy's got to make sure the information that's getting out there is not wrong.
I remember earlier on,
everything we said came from publicly available interviews with him, publicly available media, stuff that he was saying out in the public. So if he had a problem with that, the problem was not us. The problem was he said way too fucking much and then blamed it on us when his words came back to haunt him. They never, ever, ever should have had him as the mouthpiece of this thing.
You know what people don't talk about that was very important, I believe, early on, that I pointed out, just how amateurish and how unprofessional the website was early on before they revamped it. I can guarantee you Tommy did the website himself.
Oh, absolutely.
And so when he came at me on Twitter, we're talking like 2019, he would come after me and be like, hey, Pat, like that stuff, what you're saying, you don't have the information. I said, Tommy, I went to your website. What you're saying on Twitter right now is not on the website. That was the 1.0 website.
Right.
The shitty website that I think embarrassed him because he never came back to me to say it was a nice website, because the website looked like it was designed 20 years ago. Very important, because then I realized that he doesn't have a team helping him communicate, and he doesn't have even someone working on the fucking website for this huge venture.
I know. We got to move on.
Hey guys, Pat from Cape May, New Jersey. Here.
Jersey and
I
Pat.
just wanted to give my condolences to Ian and, well, really the rest of Buffalo and all of New York, really, on the loss of Every Time I Die, a.k.a. the best band on the planet. If you don't know who Every Time I Die is, they describe their music sound as a cross between a high school kegger and a Buffalo Bills tailgating party. Love the show. Keep it up.
I do know of Every Time I Die. I don't know what you mean the loss of, though. Did they move? Did they break up? I have not kept up on Buffalo in the ways I should have.
Hey Ian and Pat, Joel from Australia. It's been a while. I was just curious if you've seen the Skate still working on its trailer that EA released back in July. I'm just after your thoughts. It's getting a lot of big praise, saying that it's genuine and honest and straightforward. But as a software engineer, I know what it's like when somebody tries to sell something that you're still working on and how much pain that can cause in the long run. I was just wondering what your guys thought and how games are now trending towards showing games way too early just to drum up hype. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't seen that trailer. I did enjoy the first two Skate games. I'd probably play a new one. So I can't comment on the trailer, but we've talked. I mean, a perfect recent example of people have got to stop showing games too early is the Sonic Frontiers thing. Like once the trailer, like the actual trailer came out with like more gameplay and stuff like that, like the officially produced trailer, the game looked pretty good. There was zero fucking reason for Sega and IGN to do that like week-long fucking, info dump of them playing like the early builds that looked like shit. It did far more harm than good. And while we never saw anything other than just the words come up for Metroid Prime 4, that's another example. Like, and Nintendo, I think is learning from their mistakes. I think Nintendo's actually been the best about it as far as a modern company has been, in that they really don't show too much of anything anymore until the game's maybe at latest, like if it's a big game like Zelda, sure, they'll tease it. But I think most times they show stuff. They show stuff for games that are coming out in 6 months.
Yeah. Or sometimes sooner. Odyssey was like 3 months.
Hey, Pat and Ian, this is Donald from Minneapolis.
Hey,
you
Donald.
guys were recently talking about Action 52, which made me re-watch the Nerd episode. And he talked about how the suggested retail price was $200.
It's on the box.
So I have to wonder,
Okay.
did any store actually sell this for $200? I can't imagine Toys R Us would stock any Nintendo game for that price. Did anybody ever actually pay $200 for this game?
Was it? I thought it was
Big fan of the show.
$299.
Thanks.
Let me find the box. That's a good question. The problem with Action 52 is that it's such a weird. Suggested retail is $199.99.
Oh, okay.
It's such a weird story in general. How you had college kids make it for almost nothing. You had this guy put this together. I would think the $199 was almost a way to sell it by saying, "Hey, the suggested retail is $199.
But we can sell it for $100.
I'm going to wholesale it to you for like $40 or whatever,
Yep.
or $50, and you sell it, like I said, for $100." I think there's something to be said for that, because obviously no one $200 in 1991 or so. No one $200 is a ton of money back then. That's what a game console cost.
Yeah.
So you'd have a lot of pissed off people. I don't know. I feel
$434 today.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that this probably was peddled around Florida.
I think it was
local
mostly
stores.
probably sold out of mom and pop shops.
Or maybe it was a consignment thing. I don't know anything about this in terms of how this was sold. We're talking, they did not make many of these at all. They probably made, God, did they make even a couple of thousand of these? Who knows? But that's a good story. I'd love to know. Like, I know they interviewed a couple of people that worked on the games. Who were, they were college kids now, just about, or teenagers now. They're our age that worked on the game, basically. I'd love to know the story about that. Maybe someone point me into an article that came up. I never saw that.
Hey guys, Justin here from Hermosa Beach. Love you guys. Just watched your top 25 SNES games reviews, and I know obviously everybody has their own opinions, but it'd be kind of fun to see you two rattle off your top 25 SNES games as fast as you can. No ranking involved, just what comes right off the top of your head that you can throw out there.
Okay. God, ActRaiser, NBA Hang Time, Super Mario World,
Uniracers, Tiny Toons. It's not a system
Tecmo
I
Super
particularly
Bowl.
love.
It's tough to put me on the spot.
Super Mario World.
Chrono Trigger, Super Mario Kart. There you go.
Final Fantasy 3. Yeah.
There you go. I like Time Tracks because it's based on Time Tracks. That's one of my favorite ones. We're missing out a lot. Get a certain Super Nintendo guidebook over my right shoulder to learn more about that library there.
Hey guys, love the show.
Hi.
You always said that nostalgia kicks in between the ages of 35 to 45.
Oh no, earlier. Oh no, we said it was earlier. Oh, much earlier, in your 20s. It kicks in. That's when it kicked in for me.
What does?
Nostalgia.
Oh, yeah, I would say you're early. I would say I started to feel it in my late teens because that's why I started buying NES games.
Oh no, yeah. For me, I would say, honestly, I'd say between, in general, around 20 to 25 is like, I think when most people probably feel it. For me, it was like the late teens.
Between the ages of 35 to 45-ish. And we saw that 10 years ago with the huge 80s comeback. We're starting to see that now with the 90s. You have Rugrats being remade, Fresh Prince, Full House, etc. Is it fair to say that, when today's coming of age group becomes 35 to 45, we're going to see, 2021 stuff picking up?
Yes, here's the problem but pop culture has become so much more fragmented over the last 10, 20 years, like especially 10 years. If you told me 15, 20 years from now, what would be nostalgic? You'd be taking like a couple of Netflix shows like Stranger Things, which takes place in the 80s. And then you'd be taking,
nostalgic for a nostalgia show.
I'm really starting to think like in the 80s and even 90s, everyone was watching and listening to this almost the same things because you had less options. And now there's so many options where, like I said, I don't know if there's going to be a coherent, like what was the big pop culture thing in 2022. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a kid. I'm not around it, but I don't know if it's going to be the same thing.
I think things like Game of Thrones and stuff will get that. I think from a collecting standpoint, though, it'll be interesting to see because, a lot of this nostalgia, it goes hand in hand with collecting. Mm-hmm. And we are now in a time where the majority of the things that people are into, that we were into, there was more physical stuff back then. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see what collecting looks like for people who are growing up now. How are they going to reclaim that nostalgia like people now do by buying Nintendo games or Super Nintendo games when there's no object? They're going to load up a special drive with all of their... I mean, honestly, it'll probably be a neater, tidier existence, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, what are they going to glom onto? What is the hobby actually going to look like?
Oh, we said there's not going to be a video game collecting hobby. Sure. 20 years from now, I don't think there's going to be one.
Everyone's going to have a fucking ROM dump.
The ROM dump. Hey, look how nice how nicely organized my list is.
Yeah.
You like my GUI, my graphical user interface, like my front end, Ian? Well, that sounds kind of dirty. Next.
Hey guys, Zach from Ohio here. I got a scenario for you. You're given the chance to swap the soundtracks from two different games. The gameplay stays the same, but each game now has a soundtrack of the other. What two soundtracks would you change and why? Thanks.
I couldn't begin to try to answer this question. I can't wrap it around my head.
I'll put Symphony of the Night's soundtrack on Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Sonic the Hedgehog 2's soundtrack in Symphony of the Night.
I'll put Russian Attack on... I'm looking at Bonk's Adventure. I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Hey, Pat. Hey, it's Sean calling from Dublin, Ireland.
Hey.
If you had to pick a golden age, silver age, and bronze age of video gaming, how would you go about it? Would you start the golden age, in the time of the Odyssey and the Commodore 64, or during the NES when popularity started to pick up after the crash? I'd be interested to know your guys' take on this. Thanks.
I've thought about this.
I think the golden age would probably be 16-bit.
I think you have to have a platinum. You need a platinum, gold, silver, bronze, and modern. It's like comics. Platinum is like pre superhero stuff, for example. Platinum to me would be everything pre-Atari, probably.
sure.
Atari's the start of Golden Age to me. So
Gold. Okay, yeah. Right.
Golden Age would be Atari. Ooh, you make the case that it could be Atari all the way through all the 8-bit. You can make that case. If not, it'll be up until the NES. NES would be silver up until...
I would put it through the 8-bit stuff, I think.
What, Golden?
Yeah.
Okay, so you do up to like the late 80s. Okay, I can review that. So like 10 years.
Yes.
Late 70s to late 80s. Then silver would be starting with TurboGrafx, Genesis, Super Nintendo, going into I guess until the Dreamcast.
I was gonna say Dreamcast would be a good cutoff.
Bronze, and then bronze would be
up to
PS2, OG Xbox.
I would say go all the way up to 360.
Almost another 10 years almost.
I would say go up to 360, PS3, and then you start modern with PS4 and Xbox One.
Okay, there you go. We just did it.
I think style of gameplay. There's good changes in the style and focus of games between each of those periods too.
I can make an argument that NES would be part of silver.
Right. Yeah. I you could go either.
Because it's a big jump up.
Otherwise, gold is just a very small.
Yeah. Sure.
It's a small era.
Hey, Pat and Ian. Love the podcast. You guys are my number one work podcast to listen to. Just a quick question here. I know in the past Ian has mentioned that he's delved a little bit with the medical marijuana, maybe a little recreational.
A little
I'm just kind of curious, do you still do that, Ian? Is that still part of your life? And also a question for the good old Catholic boy standing over there. Has he ever delved into some of the devil's lettuce or some...
I was an altar boy.
I was gonna say, why am I the good Catholic boy? I haven't practiced Catholicism since probably early high school.
I was one point in time. I was an altar boy.
Did you get the Six Flags trip at the end? That's what the altar boys got a trip to Six Flags.
No, I fucking hated being an altar boy.
Then why'd you do it?
That was the end. That was the end of my church.
How was he an altar boy?
Probably I had blue hair at one point in time. And I dyed my hair blue for the first time in 7th grade, so I was probably 12.
That's when you stopped?
That was when I stopped. Yeah.
Did you stop? Did they say anything about your blue hair? Did you go to Catholic school?
I did until 4th grade.
Okay.
Went through 4th grade Catholic school. No, I mean they to his credit, Father Pat was pretty cool, and he didn't care about my hair.
So I've only smoked THC twice. Once kind of tricked. We talked about...
I still don't think there was THC in there.
I was high, Ian.
Yeah, well...
I was like sitting down like...
You're a welterweight, so maybe it was something else.
It wasn't CBD, because I've had CBD. And then a girl gave me a joint. That was, I think, a condition to have sex. I looked at it like, well, I really don't want to, but this is pretty much a condition, so I feel peer pressured like I'm in high school. So that's why I did it. I didn't really feel anything when I smoked it. Maybe take it a few times. I didn't feel anything.
You generally have to, especially if it's not like really great stuff, you got to smoke a couple of times before it
kicks in.
It gets into your body. Yeah. I smoke every day. I am high. I'm high now.
Oh.
I take edibles in the morning because they help my back. I'll be high in the afternoon, and I'll probably be high at night.
Okay.
Yeah, it does wonders for my anxiety. But this is something, and this is actually, I feel like this is important to say. Yeah, I'm a stoner, and I talk about it on Twitter and stuff like that. I've had a lot of people say, "Hey, you're a stoner," and that's accurate.
I don't consider you a stoner.
I'm thinking about, well, because I don't act like a stoner, but in terms of the amount that I smoke, sure. I mean, I am. But basically, people come to me and they're like, you smoke a lot. And they ask me if they should. And I would actually never tell anyone that I'm the wrong person to come to for like questions about it. Because everyone's experience with marijuana is wildly different.
Mm-hmm.
It can turn you into a calm, chilled out fella, or it can really fuck with your paranoia and your anxiety.
I did a paper in college about...
And stuff like that.
Yeah, I did a paper in college about studying anxiety versus marijuana use, and it was actually over a certain point, the chronic users had a lot more anxiety than people that didn't smoke as much.
So drug use is not something I frown upon within reason and being safe, but it's a very deeply personal thing, and I would never feel comfortable suggesting a person try this or try that, because it's just going to be different. If you're going to try drugs, sit down, throw on some cartoons, get some food in front of you, and that's how you start off.
Okay.
Hey guys, this is Francisco from Retro House, Costa Rica.
Hey.
Would like to know your opinion about the SmackDown video games on PlayStation 1. I remember for the time they had the multimedia you were expecting. I mean, the intros, the music, the custom fighter options were there, the career mode as well. I mean, and it was trying to mimic the TV show and stuff. For the time, I think it was great, but somehow I don't see many comments about those games these days.
I remember my cousins had, I think it was SmackDown 2, the one with The Rock on the cover. I remember it being pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't have many memories of it, but I remember playing it a decent amount at their house. And I remember I was like, yeah, this is pretty good.
I loved them. They, at the time, I desperately wanted a good wrestling game on the PlayStation because N64 was getting all of the good WCW games.
Mm-hmm.
And around the time in that the PlayStation, they got like WCW versus the World or whatever, which used roughly the same AKI engine, but it was like the first crack at it. There was way less characters, and it was kind of stiff. And then we got the shit like Nitro and Thunder and Warzone and Attitude, all of which
Nitro is Nitro is fucking terrible. Yeah. It's abysmal.
It's really, really bad.
It's a way step below the other ones you just said. It's a broken game. It's spoilers. It's one of the only half-star games in the upcoming N64 book. It's a fucking abysmal.
So I was happy when SmackDown finally came out because they were good games. They're a little bit faster, snappier, a little bit more mashy than like the AKI games, but they were good. I think the reason why you don't hear a lot of people talk about them is because those were really refined and kind of perfected in the PS2 era. Like when you start talking about PS2 games, those are always like high up on people's lists. They're very well received, so you wouldn't necessarily talk so much about the two that came before it on the PlayStation.
There were only two on the PlayStation?
Yeah, one
That's
and
what
two. And I had both of them, and two was a fucking good game, and then they just kept improving upon it on the PS2.
And PS2s are ridiculously good. Like the one I had with Brock on the covers.
Some of them had like those. I can't even remember the right years now, but the story, SmackDown vs. Raw, one of them had like the really good like creative story mode, and like people still play that shit.
I had that one, and I had the last one before that. I had the last SmackDown with Brock on the cover. That's regarded as one of the best ones. I think it's like 2002 or 2003. Like one of those is regarded as one. Which is the one with Brock on the cover? SmackDown, PS2. Was it Shut Your Mouth?
Bring the Pain. That's Bring the Pain.
Or maybe Shut Your. Let's see.
I thought it was Bring the Pain.
Was it Bring the Pain?
Yeah, SmackDown. Here Comes the Pain.
Yes,
that was
Here Comes the
2003.
Pain. That was remarkably good. That one.
Yeah, it's a great game.
That one is regarded. Wow, that's going for 60 used on eBay. I guess because people like it again.
It's Here Comes the Pain 2006 in the one SmackDown vs. Raw. I think maybe it's 2009. That are the ones people always want.
No, Here Comes the Pain. You create your own entrance. Yeah, you create your own wrestler. You had storylines in that, and it was just right. The game, I remember the gameplay being just right. Maybe a little bit too much reversal, but otherwise it was pretty good. You want to do one more? Or you just want to check in with someone?
Let's just check in with whoever we got here.
Okay, who do we got to check in with here?
We have any check-ins this week?
We do have a check-in.
Tonight on Completely Unnecessary Mysteries. Wanted, Pat Contree, a supposed game preservationist and collector.
Pat, what are you doing with my sealed Mr. Boston Vectrix and Panzer Dragoon saga?
Oh, they're going to get opened.
Now wanted for serial game opening. Authorities say Contree could most likely be found perusing flea market sales and is most easily identified by a sharp smell of cheese. Be on the lookout. Also tonight, what is Ian's day job?
Slow it down.
Also tonight, our most popular and longest running segment, Where's Frank?
I am the ghost of Frank. Boo!
We're going to scare the crap out of your kids. All this and more tonight on Completely Unnecessary Mysteries.
Very good.
Thank you, Toy. That was great.
That was wonderful. That was very well done.
He laughs over the lines too much.
Sorry. Well, then don't be so funny.
You got to pull the mic away.
Don't be so funny.
Oh,
all right, I'll pull my face
nice
away.
Deep cut pulling the haunting Frank clip.
Yeah.